Hello everyone. Today we represent about the history of tourism and hospitality industry in the Philippines. The Philippines were claimed in the name of Spain in 1521 by Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese explorer sailing for Spain who named the islands after King Philip II of Spain. They were then called Las Filipinas. History of tourism in the Philippines traces its origins during the ancient times when the first set of people chose to migrate through land bridges, followed by the other sets of migrations from the Malayan archipelago in the south and Taiwan in the north. Tourism can be recognized as long as people have traveled. The narrative of Marco Polo in the 13th century, the grand tour of the British aristocracy to Europe in the 18th century, and the journeys of David Livingstone through Africa in the 19th century are all examples of early tourism. Also, tourism has contributed significantly to the growth and competitiveness of the Philippines economy. While challenges in the global and domestic fronts have been encountered, it can be said that the industry's performance for the past 3 years has set it on track to achieve its goals in becoming a powerful economic growth engine for generating jobs and creating economic activity in the country. The industry only managed to cope in 1991 and 1992 were 1.2 million tourists visited in the Philippines. The tourists went at its peak with having almost 5.4 foreign million, or the exact of 5,360,682 tourists recorded in 2015. Nonetheless, the growth continued directly an influx of Asian and Russian tourists. The country is known as for having its rich biodiversity as its main tourist attraction. Its beaches, heritage towns and monuments, mountains, rainforests, islands, and diving spots are among the country's most popular tourist destinations. The country's rich historical and cultural heritage, including its festivals and indigenous traditions, are also one of attractions of Philippines. Popular destinations among tourists are Cebu, Boracay, Palawan, Siargao, and many more.
Let's talk about tourism and hospitality. The word tourism comes from the Hebrew word Torah, which means education, teaching, or law. It was also derived from the Old Saxon term, torn, which means live with the aim of returning, while the hospitality was derived from the Latin word hospes, meaning both visitors and strangers. Who are the tourists? Tourists are the people who travel for various purposes such as trading, business, religion, and leisure. In the late 19th and early 20th century, there is an increase of immigrants from Europe and United States, which helped the country's tourism sector to thrive. Philippines is one of the most greatest places to visit in Asia, gaining the name the Pearl of Orient Seas.
Popular journey in this era was visiting the Church of Our Lady of Peace in Good Voyage in Antipolo. This is for the purpose of seeking the Virgin's blessings and protection during the month of May. From Quiapo, heading to Cainta, Taytay, Antipolo, using hammocks carried by a crews of men or by horses drawn with courage. This is the trivia. Our Lady of Peace in Good Voyage is the well-known Virgin of Antipolo, a wooden image of the Blessed Virgin Mary, profoundly worshipped in the Philippines. It is known that the Philippines were invaded by the Spaniards and ruled by them for more than 300 years. That's why the Spanish influence is very evident in the Filipinos' looks, culture, and most of all their Christianity. After the pilgrimage, some visitors would go bath in Nervi waterfall known as Hinulugan Taktak. So the trivia of Hinulugan Taktak, during the 16th century, the residents' Nervi complained for boisterous sound produced by the bell during Angelus. The people demanded the local priest to remove the bell, and so the priest had to take it to the nearby river. This explains the Hinilugan Taktak, which means where the bell was dropped. When it comes to transportation, Laurie Nelson, a New Zealand-born businessman, established the country's first civilian airport in 1937, establishing civil aviation in the country. In 1941, Philippine Airlines, the first airline that established and was inspired by the rise of civil aviation. The addition during the time, the country's road system were not extensive local, travel was very limited and difficult. Only Baguio and Taal volcano were developed for tourism. This is the trivia. PAL or Philippine Airline becomes first Asian airline across the Pacific when it operated a chartered Douglas DC-4 on the first of several flights to ferry home initially 40 U.S. servicemen. Each crossing took 41 hours with fueling stops at Guam, Wake, Kwajalein, and Honolulu.
In 1950, Philippine Tourist and Travel Association was established as a private initiative to promote the Philippines as the major travel destination. And it is the year when the second wave of tourist influx flourished but declined during the dictatorship era. Modesto Parolan recognized the possibilities of tourism. He was the country's first consul general in Hawaii, and he was also the father of Philippine tourism. During the early years of Philippine foreign service afforded him an awareness of the potential and possibilities of tourism for a country's economic development. This led to his organizing the Philippine Tourist and Travel Association, a private sector initiative together with Salvador Peña, a devoted colleague, and endeavors. In 1956, the Philippine Congress created the Board of Travel and Tourist Industry. In 1960, the government began keeping record of the numbers of visitors arriving in the country. In 1973, the DOT was divided into two departments that led to the creation of the Department of Tourism by Ferdinand Marcos. The two department is PTA means the Agency Philippine Tourism Authority, and the PCB means the Philippine Convention Bureau. In 1986, the Department of Tourism was recognized under President Corazon Aquino's executive orders 120 and 120-8, and the Philippine Convention Bureau was renamed the Philippine Convention Visitor Corporation, and the country was raised again only in 1991 and 1992.
The greatest significant boost to tourism came from local civil aviation, which began in 1990. Low-cost airlines began to appear and more local airports began to accept international flights. In 1998, the Department of Tourism played a key role in the culmination of the centennial celebration of the Philippines' independence from Spain. By 1999, the nation had attracted 1.9 million visitors. This is due to the Department of Transportation decision to launch a marketing campaign. In 1994, the Department of Transportation launched its new campaign, Fiesta Island, Philippines. It is one of the slogans used by our country to promote the Philippines and its beautiful islands. In 2001, the DOT launched a new campaign dubbed Wow Philippines, similar to Fiesta Island, Philippines. This is to promote our beautiful country.
In 2003, the Department of Tourism created WOW Philippines, one of its most successful tourism promotion projects under the leadership of Undersecretary now Senator Richard J. Gordon. Richard J. Gordon first conceptualized the tagline in 2002, and it was formally introduced in 2003. Gordon launched the WOW Philippines campaign with the assistance of advertising agency DBTO Guerrero in response to Amazing Thailand and Malaysia Truly Asia. 2009, the passage of Republic Act No. 9593, also known as the Tourism Act of 2009, resulted in improvements in the country's tourism industry. It is an act declaring a national policy for tourism as an engine of investment, employment, growth and national development, and strengthening the Department of Tourism and its attached agencies. For the third time in 2012, the tourist sector prospered under the tagline, "It's more fun in the Philippines." The Department of Tourism replaced the WOW Philippines campaign initiated by then Tourism Secretary Richard Gordon in 2002 with the tagline, "It's more fun in the Philippines." The Philippines government started a campaign that branded the country as a perfect destination for beach bums and dive lovers. The slogan, "It's more fun in the Philippines," played a crucial role to educate people how fun it would be to visit the country. As a result, we saw a successive rise of foreign visit to the Philippines over the past few years, with a remarkable portion being those from Western countries. In 2013, 1.17 million South Korean visitors visited the country, followed by Japanese, Chinese, Australians, and Taiwanese. In 2015, tourism increased drastically, with 5,360,682 international million visitors reported.
Teodoro Agoncillo was a prominent 20th century Filipino historian. He known as a Philippine historian because of his book of history of the Filipino people that hospitality qualities were inherited through Malayan tradition. The Malayas, headed by the sovereignty of a Datu, were recognized as the first to migrate and settle. Most of the Filipino basic characteristics were formed in small communities known as a barangay. The characteristics were passed down to pre-colonial Filipino through Malay culture. The Malay culture has been strongly influenced by the culture of other areas, including Thailand, Java, and Sumatra.
Of our Lady of Guadalupe in what is now Makati was used to be light taverns and inns that were managed by religious groups. Malacanang Palace, which was previously owned by a businessman, Don Luis Rocha, is also an example of some of the rest houses in the country. Hotel de Oriente Manila, first luxurious hotel opened in 1889. The Hotel de Oriente was deemed inadequate and served as a symbol of Spanish-era Manila. On July 4, 1912, American opened the Manila Hotel, which is immediately became and continues to be one of Manila's most prominent landmarks.
In 1960, the country was able to attract 51,000 tourists. A few international hotel brands took notice and chose to enter the market. The Serration and Hilton were the first to open in 1968, followed by the Intercontinental in 1969. Serration Hotel is an international semi-luxury hotel chain owned by Marriott International, and the Hilton Hotel is an American multinational hospitality company that manages and franchises a broad portfolio of hotels and resorts. In 1973, in anticipation of growth in visitors numbers, more hotels and resorts began opening in Manila, and a few key provincial cities among them were international brands such as the Holiday Inn Yacht, the Peninsula, and the Mandarin Oriental.